This happened to me back in the summer of 2012, deep in the Coconino National Forest in northern Arizona. I went camping with 3 friends, Tyler, Josh, and Emily. We wanted to get away from the city for a weekend, and Tyler found this remote clearing online. It looked perfect. Tall pines, no nearby trails, completely isolated. Exactly what we thought we wanted. The first day was great. We set up our tents, made a fire, and spent the evening laughing under the stars. The forest was alive with crickets and owls. Peaceful, safe. But that night, things changed. We were sitting around the fire when I noticed it. Footsteps in the brush. At first I thought it was just deer, but the sound circled us. Slow, deliberate. Twigs snapping, leaves crunching. "Relax," Tyler said. "It's just animals." But deep down, I wasn't convinced. When we finally crawled into our tents, I kept my flashlight clutched in my hand. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to something that froze me in place. A woman screaming. It was distant at first, but it wasn't the wind, and it wasn't an animal. It was a human scream, raw, terrified, echoing through the trees. I shook Emily awake. We sat there holding our breath until it came again. This time, closer. We woke the guys, and all 4 of us huddled in one tent, whispering, panicked. That's when it happened. Something slammed against the side of our tent. Hard. We all screamed. Josh ripped the zipper open and shined his light into the forest. Nothing. Just trees swaying in the night breeze. But the forest had gone silent. Completely. No crickets. No owls. Nothing. We stayed awake the rest of the night, listening to soft crying drifting through the woods. Sometimes it was far away. Other times it sounded like it was right outside the thin walls of our tent. By morning we were shaken and exhausted. I wanted to leave immediately, but Tyler insisted we stay. "It was probably another camper," he said. "We'll be fine." That evening we built the fire higher, trying to push back the dark. But right at midnight, the crying returned. Louder this time. And then I saw her. A pale figure standing just beyond the tree line, barely visible in the firelight. I pointed, my voice cracking. "Do you see that?" The others turned their heads, and the figure darted out of sight. That was it. We packed up and left, even though it meant hiking in pitch-black forest. My heart pounded with every step, convinced something was following us. When we reached the trailhead, we stopped dead in our tracks. Nailed to a tree was an old wooden sign. The words carved into it sent chills racing down my spine. "Do not stay after dark." We didn't say a word. We just kept walking until we reached the car. Later, after we got home, Josh looked up the history of that area. Turns out, back in the 1980s, a young woman went missing while camping there. Her friends said she walked into the woods at night and never came back. Search teams looked for weeks but never found her. Hikers still report screams in the forest. Some say they see her, standing between the trees, crying. And me? To this day, I still hear it sometimes when I close my eyes at night, that same faint sound, the crying in the woods. This happened to me in the summer of 2016 in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. I'd gone camping with my cousin, Mark. We both loved the outdoors, and we'd been to a lot of popular campgrounds, but this time we wanted something different, somewhere off the beaten path. We drove for hours until we found a dirt road leading deep into the woods. At the end of it was a small clearing, just big enough for our tent and fire pit. No one else around. It was perfect, or so we thought. That first night, we sat around the fire, talking and joking. But around midnight, I noticed something strange. Across the clearing in the dark, I saw what looked like a light. A single lantern, faint, swaying between the trees. "Do you see that?" I asked Mark. He squinted. Probably another camper. But the nearest trail was miles away, and when I blinked, the light was gone. We brushed it off and went to sleep. At around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps around our tent. Slow, crunching leaves. I froze. The fire was long dead, and it was pitch black outside. Then I heard it, a low whisper, right outside the tent. So close, I swore I felt the breath against the fabric. I grabbed Mark's arm, whispering, "Someone's out there." We held still, listening, until the sound faded into the woods. Neither of us slept after that. The next day, we found footprints in the dirt around our camp, bare feet, dozens of them, circling the tent. That evening, we decided to pack up, but just as the sun was setting, a man appeared at the edge of the clearing. He was filthy, dressed in torn clothes and carrying what looked like a lantern. We froze. "Hey!" Mark called out. The man didn't answer. He just stood there swaying before slowly stepping back into the trees. We grabbed our gear and practically ran to the car. But halfway down the dirt road, Mark gasped and told me to stop. On the side of the road was our tent. Our tent. But we had packed it. It was standing upright, like someone had set it up again, perfectly, neatly, in the middle of the road. That was enough. We drove straight out of the mountains, not looking back. Later, we told a ranger about what we'd seen. He didn't look surprised. Instead, he told us about reports of a hermit who used to live in those woods, a man who wandered barefoot, carrying a lantern, scaring off campers. Some people swore he was still out there, even though he supposedly died years ago. I don't know if what we saw was a man, a ghost, or something worse. But I do know one thing. When you're camping deep in the wilderness, sometimes you're not as alone as you think. This story happened to me in 2019 when I went on a solo camping trip to a lake in northern Minnesota. I won't say the exact location because after what I experienced, I don't want anyone else making the same mistake. I had always loved camping, but this was the first time I decided to go alone. The lake was quiet, surrounded by thick pine trees, and the nearest town was nearly an hour away. I wanted peace, isolation, and I got it. The first night was calm. I set up camp right by the water, made a fire, and listened to the sound of loons calling across the lake. As the stars came out, I felt completely at ease. But around midnight, I woke up to a strange sound. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then I realized it was a voice, a whisper. It was faint, drifting across the surface of the water. I sat up in my tent, listening hard. The words weren't clear, but it was definitely someone speaking. "Hello?" I called out. The whisper stopped. I told myself it was just my imagination and eventually went back to sleep. The next day, I went for a hike around the lake. On the far side, I found the ruins of what looked like an old cabin, just a collapsed chimney and rotting wood. Something about it unsettled me, but I shrugged it off. That night, the whispering returned. This time, it was louder. Closer, I unzipped my tent and shined my flashlight toward the lake. The water was perfectly still, but the sound was unmistakable, like several voices all murmuring at once. I called out again, my voice shaking. "Who's there?" No answer. Just whispers, swirling across the water, surrounding me. I barely slept that night. By morning, I was ready to leave. But when I walked to the water's edge to rinse my face, I froze. In the wet sand were footprints. Bare, human footprints, leading out of the lake and stopping just a few feet from my tent. I packed up as fast as I could and left. Back in town, I mentioned the footprints and the whispers to the owner of a small bait shop. His face went pale. He told me about the cabin ruins I'd found. Decades ago, a family lived there. One winter, the ice gave way, and all of them drowned in that lake. Locals say that when the night is still, you can hear their voices, whispering, trying to lure people closer to the water. I've camped many times since then, but never again by that lake. And whenever I hear the sound of water at night, I can't help but wonder. If I had listened a little longer, if I had followed the whispers, would I have come back at all?